All right, so welcome and thank you for coming to the Lynbrook Hotel Community Contributions Fund, the info session. So my name's Jess Field. I'm one of the Grants Development Officers here at Casey, and Rosie and I, so we job share this role.
Yes.
So we've already said we're going to be recording, which is great. We also thought if you could leave your questions to the end, that would make it easier just with the recording and everything. If you have specific queries regarding your grant, you're very welcome to hang around at the end and have a chat with Rosie and I, or you can give us a call during the week. So yep. Okay, so this is the team. So there's Rosie and myself, as we said, we're the Grants Development Officers. Kristen Sweeney is our Community Development Coordinator, so she looks after the bigger grants here at Casey. Then Carolyn Bosch, she's our Grants Support Officer. Any one of us can assist you with any inquiries on grants. We can be contacted on that number on the screen, or that email is like a shared email that we all access. So this is the third year for the funding for this program. However, it wasn't run last year due to COVID. And this grant round is quite different in nature to the grants we usually run. Again, we encourage you to contact us if you'd like to discuss what you're planning to apply for before you put your application in. Even if you get halfway in and you just want to check something, it's always best to give the grants team a call. So today's session is an opportunity to learn about this funding round, which is currently open. The guidelines for this funding program outline who is eligible to apply and the types of programs that can be applied for. So these were sent out with the meeting link. There was a couple of attachments there, and we will be referring to them throughout tonight, but you don't need to have them nearby because it's kind of all embedded in the slides. We also sent out an attachment from Gamblers Help, and this has a range of statistics and information that you can use to support your application. And so as it says up on the slide, the grant round is now open. It'll close on Friday, the 4th of March at 5 o'clock. And there's no way of accessing that application form once they close. So really make sure you give yourselves enough time over the next 4 to 5 weeks, I think it is, to get that submission in properly. And then the funding available it's a minimum of $1,000 and it's up to $10,000. So it's quite a big round for our level of grants. Our community grants that open next month are only up to $5,000. So $10,000 is quite a substantial amount for a grant. Okay, over to you, Rosie, for a bit.
Thanks, Jess. So obviously this is quite a different grant for our council. It's obviously funded through monies that are collected through the Victorian Commission for Gambling and Liquor Regulation. Big breath there. I'll just call it the Commission. And it's part of the Lynbrook Hotel's licence to operate, that they're directed to put aside some funds, an annual cash contribution every year, which we look after and distribute to the community. And it's there to design to promote positive community and social behaviours, and obviously to limit some of the harm from gambling and things like that, which obviously unfortunately is there. So for local community groups and organisations, we're looking to seek some applications for activities. Sorry, someone who's just joined, maybe your microphone's on.
Rosie, can I also check can you let people in when they come to the lobby? Because I can't seem to figure that out, but
no worries.
You can do that, can't you? Yeah, right.
Yes, cool.
Thanks.
Sorry. And yeah, this particular grant is really focused in the Lynbrook, Lyndhurst, Hampton Park areas of Casey. Groups around the Casey community can, of course, apply, but it's really focused in those target areas because they're the catchment that feed into the Lynbrook Hotel in that area. So every year, council receives this cash contribution that we distribute, as I said, and as has been pointed out too, this is the only grant that council is looking after that schools can apply for as well. So welcome to the schools tonight that have joined us. So the current arrangements for the Lynbrook Hotel and their licence at the moment are through to August this year. So we will have another round of this particular grant running either later this year, early next year. Obviously, we don't know the direction forward in the licence yet, but at the moment there will still be, post this one, another round that will run. So just to be aware of that. And as I said, probably at a similar time next year. Thanks, Jess. I'll get you to flick to the next one. So obviously, when you're looking at your grant and writing it, have a quick look at our Casey electronic gaming machine strategy as well. That outlines that council has an overall commitment to try and reduce the harm of gambling and problem gambling in the community. Very much Casey does not endorse gambling, gambling providers and the services and things that they promote. And obviously this grants program, we want to try and minimise the harm and put something back to the community that's non-gambling related. So we don't obviously profit from poker machines, and through our other health and wellbeing strategies and things, really strongly advocate for public health and promoting the good health of the community and trying to make sure that that there's services out there and things that can help people if they are experiencing harm from gambling. I'll flick to our next slide. Thanks, Jess. So quickly now on the screen, you'll see the objectives for it. So obviously we want to provide some social support to community members and their families who unfortunately are experiencing issues of harm. It's to support mental health and wellbeing and social inclusion. And obviously post-COVID, that's a really huge thing. So obviously, I'm sure you guys have some ideas out there for programs and activities and things that would promote that, which we're looking for. And also to promote other recreational activities and things and lifestyle choices and things for the community that aren't gambling related. And when you look at the list of past recipients of this grant, you'll see that there's the U3As, the sporting clubs, the community groups and things who are trying to have programs and things and promote them for other alternatives and things. I might flick to the next one if that's all right. So eligibility wise, and this is obviously in your guidelines and things as well, we're looking for community groups that are not for profit. That's probably one of the most important things, and that they're based in Casey, or if they're not based in Casey, that they provide services and programs to the City of Casey, and in particular the areas around Lynbrook, Lyndhurst and Hampton Park. That, as I say, that's because it's the key catchment area for this grant. You also need to be insured with public liability insurance and incorporated. As an incorporated organisation, obviously, you'll have insurance. If you are looking for an auspice, i.e. to come under the umbrella of another organisation and their insurance, it can be good, please, if you can get a letter of support or some sort of indication from that organisation that they will support you in your program or project, because that's quite important. And of course, we encourage partnerships and things from community organisations for that. But yeah, we do need a certificate of currency of public liability insurance. And just to tick that off too, please, when you do your application, can you include that, the certificate of currency, not just the receipt that you've paid it. Sometimes that does come in, so that's just a little intel in there. I might flick to the next one, thanks. So with our funding criteria, as I'm hoping you'll be aware, Casey, with their grants, we have a fantastic panel of community members, and we've just inducted our next 50 for the next few years of community members from all across Casey, different backgrounds, ethnicities, areas, ages. And from that pool of people, we select 4 for this panel to help assess. So when you're writing your application, really write it in mind that you're writing to another member of the community and you want to tell them what you're looking to do. We want to make sure that it obviously meets the criteria for this particular grant round. So read the guidelines really carefully and what we're looking for. We want to make sure it's targeting our community, if particularly the areas of Lynbrook and Lyndhurst and Hampton Park and what you're wanting to do. Outline really clearly what you're wanting to deliver and how you're going to do that, because our community member panel want to see that you can deliver the project, how you're going to do it, and how you're going to obviously make sure that you can meet all the timelines and deliverables in that. And obviously, we want to see too a really good budget, if you can, of how you're going to spend the funds, because often it'll be the panel that might look at something and go, oh, I have a question on that. So we want to try and be able to answer that and have all those how you're going to spend the money quite clearly laid out, so that they can go, oh yes, that's definitely what we want. So definitely, as I say, when you're writing it, have someone else look at it maybe in your group and just make sure that you're meeting the criteria, and you can really tell the story to these community panel members of what it is you're wanting to do, and that you're meeting all the parts of the guidelines. So Jess will run through shortly how you do the application. But yeah, if you have questions on that or want to double check things, please let us know, because we're here to help. I might flick to the next one if that's okay. And that's obviously what can be funded. Obviously have a look at previous projects that have been funded, but we want it from groups that can outline how they're going to help individuals and people that are experiencing gambling harm or offer programs. So we've had programs in the past of problem gambling or how to assist community and things like that with that. We want activities and services. Sorry, whoever's just joined, I might try and mute you if that's okay. We want to see if there's some activities and services and things like that that give people other opportunities, events, programs, that sort of thing, to obviously do other activities and things. You might have a program that's looking for operational costs to run that service or program. We've had that from community centres and things before. Or how you might enhance what you're already doing to be in that. So definitely have a think about that and what you can do. And as I said, have a look also at past groups that have been funded and things as well. I'll just flick to our last one here. Obviously, to be aware of what might not be funded as well. Quite obviously, we want to keep the benefits.
Rosie, I can't hear you for some reason. I don't know if that's just me.
Oh, am I back?
I can.
Sorry about that. So obviously for what won't be funded, we want to focus on the City of Casey. So if you're doing an event or activity, it does need to be in the City of Casey. And we need to do it within the time frame of the funding as well, which is April this year when the funds are released to June next year. And you need to be able to quit in that time. So we want to make sure, obviously, that you can deliver what you're going to do within that time frame. And it is on there too that we don't fund capital works in our buildings. We have a separate capital works funding program. So if you've got something in that realm, have a chat to us. We can refer you to other areas, but please make sure, obviously, we want to make sure you're putting in a good application for a program or service that will be funded. So just keep that in mind. I might flick back to you now, Jess, if that's okay.
Sure, thanks, Rosie. Okay, so a couple more slides here. So writing a strong application. So we want you to provide as much detailed information as you can while using your words well. So tell your story. You know the group best. The grants team, by now, we might know of your group. We might think you're great as well, but the panel may never have heard of you. So yeah, you really need to sell yourself in those first couple of questions about the description of your group. So it might be obvious to you, but you really do, like Rosie said, you need to explain the budget well. You need to break it all down, and I'll show you when we get to the application form. But yeah, line by line of what you're budgeting for, because again, the panel will question this. So this is just the timeline for the grant round. So I've got the info session tonight. You've got 4 to 5 weeks for the application. So that closes in March. You will, once you submit it, you will receive a notification from Smarty Grants letting you know that it's been submitted. Rosie and I then look through all the applications and make sure everything's eligible, make sure everything's there for the panel. We then pull the panel together, hopefully in person, but who would know. And we have a couple of nights where we have a good chat and they decide who they're going to put forward to council for funding. That happens in April, and then also in April you will be notified of the outcome. So what happens if you're successful? So the successful letters and the unsuccessful ones are both emailed out through Smarty Grant. So they go to the email address that you've put in your application form. You'll receive an email letting you know how to do your acquittal and where to find that form as well. You must keep your receipts. These form part of your acquittal and need to show that you've spent the money on what you've initially been granted the money for. So very important, that one. Councillor, we have an obligation to report to the VCGLR on how the funds were spent. So we will put a report in once we've decided who's receiving the funding. We put in a report. So in April, we then put another report up when you've all acquitted for what you've spent the funds on. So usually we would have a guest speaker from Gamblers Help. However, we just thought being online, it was going to be too big of an evening. So that was also one of the attachments that we sent out with the link. But if you didn't get it or you can't find it, you can just shoot us an email. We can send it again. So these are just a few figures that they've provided. So these are the spend figures based on the 207 days that those venues were operational in 2020 and 2021. So pretty huge. I mean, gambling losses per day, almost 400,000 in Casey. Pretty scary when you get down to it. And I remember last time we ran this session and they did come out just watching just how much money was lost and how many people it was affecting. It was pretty mind-blowing. So and then the reason we decided to still provide all that information is that so you can pull the stats and information from there to support your applications. So don't feel like, I know we've got some teachers and stuff here. You can just pull it straight out of those pages and plonk it in your application. No need to reword it or anything like that. And I think it's just best to be using that kind of stuff because it is current, it is relevant, and it's been provided literally last month from the team down there. They also talk about how gaming itself may not encourage gambling, but the lines are becoming blurred, that more and more there are elements being introduced to games such as in-game purchases, loot boxes, etc., that can contribute to the normalisation of gambling from a young age. So I left this slide in here, just it might be something else that you decide could be worth focusing on for your application. And they also just provided a bit of a list of options you could do for your applications as well. So financial capability workshops, support groups, collaborative programs with Gamblers Health, that is also an option. So yeah, these are all in those slides we've sent out, so you can have a better look when you are doing your application. So this is a full list of the groups that were successful back in 2020. So I think there was about 12, a range of different programs. So material aid for kids, weekly meals program for the homeless. There's some sport and recreation things in there, education for older adults down with D3A, females in football. So there's a real variety you can see, and that's what we're looking for, I suppose, as well with the applications. Okay, so what I'm going to quickly do now, so it's 7:26. Rosie, if you can see the chat, if people can just pop in whether they have done an application through Smarty Grants before, or if it's their first time. We're still going to run through it quickly because I know we have quite a range of groups here. So can you still see the Lynbrook page here, Rosie, with Casey? Yep. Okay, so when you're looking to apply, you just Google search City of Casey, Lynbrook Grants, something like that, and this page comes up pretty easily. So this has also got so these are essentially the guidelines all written through here. So an easy way to read through them. And then when you're ready to apply, you'll click on apply now. I've got some more people in the lobby. That's all right. Okay, so, and then we want to log in. So once you've started doing an application, you may well be logged in the whole time, but for now I need to log in. For those that have never used Smarty Grants before, you will need to register. It's just a couple of questions. For us, we're just going to use our dummy account over here. So because we've done it before, we just simply need to log in. So this is where it shows all the grants that are available at the moment. Look, majority of them, it might look exciting that there's a whole bunch of applications there, but really the only one that's available is the Lynbrook one. So we click on that. You can preview the form and have a quick look. You could download the form if you're wanting to print it off and take it off to a committee meeting. We're going to go straight into filling it out. It is important as well just to read through these before you begin. Notes are very important to be saving your application as you go. Smarty Grants is well known to not save if you get up and walk away from the computer. So ensuring you're hitting save, which I'll be able to show you where that is. So fill out. Okay, so what this has done now is this has given me a submission number straight away. So as soon as you start an application, this is the number that you'll need. I mean, it'll be on emails and all that kind of stuff for you anyway, but this is if you were calling the grants team up, you could just supply this number and we can look up your application once it's submitted. Okay, so this is what the application looks like. So this is like what I said, save and progress. You can save and close if you want to go away and come back to it later. On the right-hand side, you'll see the form navigation. So this just shows the 6 different pages that we've got. Up the top, you'll see my submissions. So if you have submitted other applications in the past, they'll all be sitting in here. Quite often people accidentally start one and then start another one. It's not the end of the world. You might just see that a couple are sitting there, so you want to remember to continue to work on that one that you've chosen to stick with. Okay, so running through the application pretty quickly, making sure you fill in anything with a red asterisk. Organisation details, contact person, you have a second person from your organisation to endorse the fact that you're doing the application so somebody else knows. It's probably best just at the end of each page just to hit save progress. And then keep going. Okay, so organisation details continue. So this is where we need a few details from you. So your incorporation number, if you don't know it, we try to be as helpful as we can. You don't have to jump off pages. So you can click here, type in your organisation's name and your incorporation number should come up. Same thing with your ABN. You can look it up here if you have one but don't know the number. Just make sure you're writing your organisation's name exactly as it would be known. That will then fill in all this stuff for you. If you don't have an ABN, that's fine. You can still apply for a grant. We just ask that you fill in a statement by supplier form. Again, you'll see here that there's a blank one and also how to fill it in. And then you just upload it here. So you just literally save it to your computer, like save it on your desktop, similar to what you do with your, I've jumped ahead, with your public liability insurance, which is next. So again, we just want to make sure that you're funded for, covered, sorry, for a minimum of $10 million. Attaching that file here. So again, that's a certificate of currency, not just your tax invoice or your receipt, because the currency shows the date from when your group is insured to, from and to, and then the amount you're insured for. So we will chase you if you don't put that right form in there. Also make sure it's current, because again, we'll have to chase you. So that's where all that eligibility stuff comes in, where Rosie and I step in once your application's submitted. So this only comes up, auspice information only comes up if you are being auspiced by another organisation. Save and progress. Next page. Okay, so this is one of the key questions, providing a brief description of your organisation, where we said just to sell the group, let them know all about what you do. I think yeah, there's a 200 word limit, so using your words well, but giving a really nice idea of what you do. Okay, how much you're applying for, so it could be up to $10,000. Give your project a title, describing your project. So I won't go through every question here, but you'll get the gist. So this is where, so there was those criteria that Rosie went through earlier on. So we've kind of married up the questions to match the criteria, so you don't have to go back and go, oh, what was that again? So simply filling in these really well will help your application. There's 4 criteria there. That's also then what the panel then assess your application on, those 4 criteria and your budget. Okay, so save and progress, across we go. So this is the budget section. Sometimes we had a little demo one down here, but doesn't look like it's there. That's okay. So you just need to make sure that the income side matches the expenditure side. A lot of people get confused with this. See how you go. If you do have any trouble, again, just give us a call. It will enter it in here. So say if I say $100 there, it's a bit late for me to be doing this brain stuff, but so total income there, total expenditure there, and then we've ended up with 0. I think that's right. So you'd be putting one by one. So you'd put over here that City Casey grant, you're wanting $10,000, and then say if the program was going to cost you $15,000, you can put in that the school or the club is going to, put in that additional 5, or they're going to fundraise for the additional 5, or they're going to get sponsorship, anything like that. We want to see where you're getting the rest of that money. So don't think like that's going to hinder your application, because if you put in $10,000 and then over on this expenditure side, it shows that you've spent $15,000, the panel are going to say, well, they can't afford it because they've only got $10,000. So we want to see that full breakdown and where all the funds are coming from, and where we're happy to see that other groups might be assisting you with that funding. So you don't put in kind stuff up here, you pop it in the next question. So any time that your volunteers are putting in, or they're printing, all that kind of stuff they're doing at home that's being donated, pop that in there. The panel likes to see all that kind of stuff. We do ask whether you can take partial funding or not. So you might have asked for $10,000. The panel, it depends on the panel each year, and with each different grant round, the panel might decide that they want to fund a few more groups rather than, the 8 for $10,000. They might want to fund 12. So they might say, right, this group is quite happy to take 6 instead of 10. So we'll give them the 6. Doesn't always happen. And again, it doesn't hinder your application by putting in that 6. It's probably worse if you say we want $10,000 and we can't do it for any less. So popping that in there, save progress, across we go. Okay, and the last bit's just the declaration and a bit of feedback. Across to the end. So this is just telling me that I haven't filled it in properly, so I need to go back and do all of that. You will find if you miss one of the asterisks, it will not, when you get down to the bottom, I think it will not let you submit. See here, it's not shaded dark enough for me to actually submit it because I haven't finished it. You will see over here as well, download PDF. A lot of groups like to know about that because they can work through it, and then they can print it off and they can take it to the meeting. Well, in the old days when we could go to meetings and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I reckon that's probably enough. Logging out, again, just making sure you're saving, logging out, but I'm just going to click out of that. Okay, so I think that's it, Rosie, slide-wise.
And I was just going to add too, if you do have questions after this, on the main web page, it's obviously got our links to the grants team. Yes, sometimes when you ring through, it can be pretty hectic on the call centre. So if you shoot us an email to the community grants email address or G officer, there's 4 of us that check that all the time. So rather than waiting on hold for a little while when it's hectic. If you've got a query, please email too, and we can ring you straight back just to save you listening to the whole music. Is that a nice way of putting it, Jess?
Yes, very good. Email's good because we're checking it several times a day, so one of us will get back to you pretty quick. Okay, so we might stop
the recording. Yep.
And
that way I can bring